All right, guys, how are we going? Welcome back. We're going to take a look at this weekend's card, which is Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez, and this one's pretty stacked. It should be a good one. Should be a lot better than last week's, which was a bit of a dud, except for Jamie Malaki versus Michael Johnson, obviously, which I predicted. But this one's a bit more stacked, has more prospects, has more names on it, so it should be a good one. Let's get into it. All right, first up, we've got Justin Jacoby versus Daun Jung from South Korea, a big South Korean light heavyweight, which you don't see very often. I don't get the odds on this one. Justin Jacoby's a favourite, but he's not a big favourite. And look, if you couldn't tell, I've recorded this already and had some issues, obviously, but whatever. Justin Jacoby's a favourite, but not as big a favourite as I feel like he should be. You know, he's been plugging away in the UFC for years. He's ranked 12th or 13th now. He's starting to look really good. Jung's a good prospect. You know, I think he's only 28. He's had 5 fights in the UFC, and he's looked good with some big stoppage wins. His last win was a pretty nice stoppage win over Kennedy Nzechukwu. But, you know, Justin Jacoby hasn't lost since 2015. Jung hasn't lost since 2015, but Jacoby's been doing it against tougher competition in the UFC. So I feel like you can't look past Dustin in this one. I feel like he'll get it done, possibly in the second or third round. We'll see. All right, next up, we've got Shane Burgos, the always exciting Shane Burgos versus Charles Jourdain. And yeah, I feel like this should be, no disrespect to Charles, but I feel like this should be a fairly easy win for Shane Burgos. He's been in there with the best. You know, he's had some losses to the best as well, but he's always tough. He's ranked in the very tough featherweight division, and yeah, unless he's deteriorated significantly, I feel like he should get this one done pretty easily. All right, next up, the fight that I'm most excited about, and a fight that I know a lot of you are excited about as well. We got the undefeated Welsh prospect, the Welsh GSP, Jack Shaw, against another young prospect, Ricky Simone. And as I've got the Australian odds here, so just because this is how I understand it. So Jack Shaw is the big favourite, paying $1.57, and Simone's a big underdog at $2.41, which I don't understand at all, I'll be honest. You know, Jack Shaw's very exciting. He's a good young prospect, a style that you don't often see come out of that part of the world, and he's undefeated and he's good. But Ricky Simone's fought real competition. He's got wins over Merab Dvalishvili, Brian Kelleher, Ray Borg, and Rafael Assunção as well. You know, his only losses are to Uriah Faber and Rob Font in the UFC, and those aren't losses to be ashamed of by any stretch. So yeah, I'm not quite sure why Jack Shaw is this big a favourite, but you know, at $2.41, if I was betting, I'd have to. This would be my bet of the week, my underdog of the week. Not stealing from Ariel Helwani. So yeah, this Ricky, I don't quite get the odds on this one, but yeah, I'm picking Ricky to win, and at those odds, I think those are good odds. All right, next up, we've got another up and coming prospect in the Tibetan Eagles, Sumajeri. He's facing a veteran in Matt Schnell, and another one of the odds that I don't quite understand. Sumajeri is a big favourite in this one. Matt Schnell's paying $3.21, and yeah, I know Matt Schnell hasn't looked like a world beater lately, but he's a ranked guy. He's been ranked for a while. He's fought. You know, I know he got knocked out by Pantoja, but he's fought the best of the best. And Sumajeri is an exciting prospect, and and his stoppage wins have looked good, and that is, I think that's Sumajeri's big draw. I think he's got a lot of, his finishing rate for a flyweight is very high. Most of his wins are by finish. His last fight in the UFC went to a decision, and that was against a fighter who was 3-2. So, you know, at 321, again, if I was betting, I would be putting that on Matt Schnell. I think the experience would get him over the line in that one. I think he'd be able to counter the aggression of Sumajeri, but Sumajeri could blow him out of the water as well, and those odds could be completely justified. But if I was betting, I'd be betting on Matt Schnell for this one. And in our main event, we got Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez, and look, it depends who you talk to with the sort of title implications on this one. Old Mike Bisping, DJ Mikey B, old left hook Larry himself, seems to think that the stakes are fairly high in this one, and there are pretty big title implications. Yair has said this week that the UFC has told him that if he wins, that he's next for Volk. I can't, you know, I don't know if that's just him trying to bluff and force the UFC's hand, but I can't imagine that being true. He's coming off a loss to Max, and if he were to beat Brian Ortega, then that would be, you know, a 1-fight win streak. So not exactly the best, you know, resume for a title shot. And, you know, Brian Ortega this week has also said that he's given Volk the most trouble and seems to think that he still has something for Volk, and I tend to disagree with that. Personally, if Volk can survive that absolutely perfect, terrifying mounted guillotine from Brian Ortega, then I don't think Brian's got much else for him, especially with the strides that Volk's making and just separating himself from the rest of the pack as the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. So, you know, and I think the UFC want to book Volk for the 155 strap, but, you know, the 155-pound title picture is clear as mud at the moment, and Volk's injured, could be out for the rest of the year as well. So, you know, I don't think this is a number one contender fight. I think Josh Emmett is still right there, and I think if Dana were to give the shot to either of these guys, he wouldn't be safe around Uriah Faber ever again, because I think he's under the assumption that Josh Emmett's next. Again, we just have to see what happens with Volk in the 55-pound belt, which, you know, is the exact thing that Volk didn't want, was to possibly hold up 2 divisions. He wanted to keep 2 divisions active, but given the Charlie Olive situation with the belt, you know, they'll probably book the Islam fight. So, and those were just the fights that stuck out to me. There's still other good ones on the card. Dustin Stoltzfus is improving. You know, we've got Herbert Burns, younger brother of Jareno, Gilbert Burns against Bill Algeo. Soriano's exciting. We've got Lauren Murphy against Misha Tate, former champ versus the recent title challenger, and Li Jingliang's always good value as well. So this should be a good card, and I'll be back to recap and go over some potential fights, some matchmaking after it's all said and done as well. So thanks for watching, everyone, and yeah, we'll be back. Enjoy the fights this weekend.